Hi, everybody. I wanted to do a follow-up recording of the whole book that we read this week, Okapi Tale by Jacob Kramer and K-Fai Steele. It can be nice to listen to the story more than once and think about it more on your own. So that's why I wanted to make this video about the sequel to Noodlephant, Okapi Tale. Now, just to give you a reminder about your job while I am reading, let's see here. Yes, we talked a little bit in class about okapis. This is the new character in the book, and how Okapi is a mix between a giraffe and a zebra. Now, we learned that Okapi in this story cares about only one thing, and it is money. Now, in real life, one of the great parts about okapis is they don't care about money. They care about fruits and bugs and leaves and twigs and other vegetation and their okapi families. But in this book, Okapi definitely cares about money. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more here in just a moment. I wanted to remind you that the word clog is going to have an important meaning in this story. We're going to see a Japanese wooden clog called geta. And remember that clog can also be a blockage. For example, this pipe is clogged with ice. So be thinking about, as we go into the story, what would happen if a clog were to be put in the fantastic noodler machine? We also talked about the meaning of the word capital. So we know, obviously, our capital letters. We know that there can be a capital city. For example, the capital of California is Sacramento. But capital has a different meaning in this book. Capital means money. Yeah, usually money used to start a business. And Okapi certainly rolls into town with a whole lot of money at capital, and he is going to buy the fantastic noodler machine and start a business. Now, your job in the story. We learned when we read Noodlephant, I asked you to look for systems in the town of Rooville back then that were unfair. And we saw the way laws were made only by kangaroos. That was an unfair system. We saw how the police were involved in the system, and they usually enforced the laws with violence, even though the laws weren't fair. We saw the court system. Look, only kangaroos sitting in judgment of Noodlephant. And of course, the zoo was part of the system, right? Where Noodlephant was put for eating noodles, which was against the law. Now, we're going to look at a different system in the book today. It's an economic system, which means a money system. How is money made and how is it used? And your job is to pay close attention to how money is used in Beaston to get power. How do certain animals use money to get power? And how do the animals with not very much money get some of that power back? All right, you're thinking about money, and we are reading Okapi Tale, the sequel to Noodlephant by Jacob Kramer and K-Fai Steele. And here are lots and lots of things that could be cranked through the noodler and turned into noodles. We know there'll be a lot of noodles in this story. Now, not so long ago, Noodlephant and her friends invented a machine that would turn anything into noodles. Using the fantastic noodler, they turned pillows into ravioli, shoelaces into spaghetti. It was such a wonderful machine that they gave it to the town for all to use. Wow, so it doesn't belong to just Noodlephant and her friends anymore. Look, they put it right there in front of the courthouse so that anybody can bring stuff and make their own noodles, have some good food for their families. Yeah, what a wonderful thing. Now it belongs to everyone. Now, animals from far and wide flocked to Beaston to crank stuff through the machine. Noodlephant's friends welcomed the newcomers and invited them to picnic together. But not everyone in Beaston was happy. The kangaroos, see them there on the beach? They missed the days when the town was called Rooville, and they were the only ones in charge. And they grumbled and they whined about their new neighbors. And they even complained to the mayor. So some things have changed in Beaston and some things have not. Those kangaroos. Well, Noodlephant was so inspired by all the visitors that now she wanted to travel the world. She took a job as a cook on a ship sailing to Japan and China, places famous for their noodles. As Noodlephant was boarding, an Okapi disembarked. "Enjoy Beaston," called Noodlephant, but the Okapi just sniffed up his snooty snout. Not too friendly, that Okapi. "Oh, don't mind that Okapitalist," said the captain. "He's very rude and he only cares about money." All right, remember that. Lock that in your brain. He only cares about money. And it doesn't look like he likes to do a lot of the work himself either, judging by the way this possum here is carrying all 4 of his suitcases. Well, as soon as Okapi saw the fantastic noodler, he wanted to buy it. "Who owns this machine?" asked the Okapi. "Bzz. Nobody," said the fly. "Bzz, bzz. It's public, and that means it belongs to everyone." Bzz, bzz. "Somebody must own it," declared the Okapi. "Everything belongs to someone." The mice, who had lovely voices, burst into song. "We built this machine together. It's for everyone to use. Whether you're scaly or hairy or feathered, there's noodles for me's and you's. When everyone owns it, nobody does. We can share all the things we produce. Whether you're covered in spines or in fuzz, there's noodles for me's and you's." The Okapi snorted and he went to see the mayor. He doesn't really care for this little song, does he? "I'd like to buy your old machine," said the Okapi. "It's dented and it clutters up the park. Besides, look out there. It's attracting all sorts of disgusting vermin." The mayor nodded. "These newcomers are ruining Rooville." "Sell it to me," said the Okapi, "and I'll restore the good old days." Okapi wrote the mayor a big check. Money, right? And they sealed the deal. Now, I asked you to look for ways that money is used to get power in this book. Think about that on this page. Okapi has just used money. He wrote a big check to the mayor to buy something that belonged to everyone. It wasn't the mayor's to even sell, but the mayor wanted that money for himself. So now we have these two coming together and getting the power of the fantastic noodler machine, right? And taking it away from everyone else. They only want that power for themselves. Let's find out what Okapi does with that machine. The next morning, when the animals of Beaston went to make noodles, all they found was a sign. Now hiring Okapi pasta. Look, no one can crank any of those things through to make food. Well, meanwhile, Noodlephant was enjoying Japan, a place famous for udon, soba, and ramen noodles. Yum. One day, Noodlephant found herself in the middle of a parade of dancers, wearing tall wooden clogs called geta. They looked like so much fun. Look at everybody's feet here. Noodlephant bought an extra large pair for herself. And she got matching sets to bring home to all her friends. But back home, unbeknownst to Noodlephant, things were getting much, much worse. Okapi's factory had turned all the beach shells into conchiele and the leaves into foglie. And one day, all of the butterflies vanished from the butterfly garden. And the next night, boxes of farfalle were being loaded into to trucks. Where do you think all this stuff is going? Into the noodler, no doubt, right? But look at the town. What happened to all the nature, all the plants, all the butterflies? Okapi's factory is making so much pasta and using up so much nature that life is being thrown out of balance here, isn't it? I'm seeing a lot of pollution. With all the money he was making, Okapi bought up the town. He bought the grocery store and the bistro and the farmer's market. And each time he raised the prices to get more money. The only way Noodlephant's friends could get enough money to buy food was to work in the Okapi's factory. Now again, how is Okapi using money to get power? Yeah, he's buying up everything in the town now. So anytime anybody buys something, he is getting more money. And these animals don't really have a choice, right? There they go to work in the factory. Day by day, the Okapi ordered them to work faster and faster, cranking out more and more pasta. Think about who is doing all the work in this picture, and think about who is getting most of the money. Well, the workers protested outside City Hall, but the mayor just shrugged. Job creators like Okapi are beautifying Rooville and making it safer. Look at all these statues and the shiny new cages in the zoo. But Noodlephant's friends chanted, cages cannot make us safer. Statues cannot feed our town. The bad old days won't be our future. We demand that you step down. How dare you speak to a kangaroo like that? Snapped the mayor. And he went inside to meet with Okapi. Now, this is something we saw a little bit in Noodlephant, the last book, right? How are the animals with not very much money trying to get some of that power back? Well, we can see them here all protesting, right? Saying they do not like the changes that have been made in this town. Well, meanwhile, Noodlephant was having a great time in China. She learned how to stretch bang bang noodles and eat them with spicy chili sauce. And she loved slurping floppy sheets of poo gai mane. There she is, stretching them over her head and flipping them around. But one day, Noodlephant saw a strange new brand of pasta at the market. Holding the box, her trunk tingled with fear. Deep down, she knew something had gone very, very wrong. And there's a clue here that tells her something has gone wrong. We see the picture of Okapi. Okapi's farfalle, they're delicious. And look here, made in Rooville. Remember how the name of the town was changed to Beaston? The fact that it's being called Rooville again is very concerning to Noodlephant, that maybe things are going back to the way that they were. She's very concerned. Noodlephant rushed to the docks where her shipmates were loading crates of juicy peaches. My friends need me at home in Beaston, she told the captain. Can you help? Of course, said the captain. We will sail tonight. Well, at sea, Noodlephant cooked and sang with her shipmates. The more I see, the more I think about how we can change our ways to share in common all the things that help us live throughout our days. Food and water, medicines, hot tubs, energy and trains, housing and the wilderness, factories for making things. Orchards, farms, and neighborhoods are not just for the wealthy few. They should be held as public goods. They all belong to me and you. Now, this is a really important song, friends, because Noodlephant is saying that there are some things in this world that should belong to everyone, not just a couple people with a lot of money, right? Can you think of anything that everybody should have that should be shared and belong to everyone? Think about things that she mentions: food and water, medicine. Should you have those things even if you don't have any money? Noodlephant says yes. She also says housing and the wilderness, all the things of nature, those things should be shared, right? For the benefit of all the animals. Well, a few weeks later, Noodlephant arrived at home. Her friends rushed to meet her at the dock. They hugged and ate peaches and opened their presents. And everyone clip-clopped around on their new geta. And they stayed up very late into the night, making plans. It looks like they also had some noodles, of course, too. Maybe one of the kinds she learned to make in Japan. Well, the next morning at the factory, everyone was a little bit taller and a little bit wobbly. And it's because, look at their feet. They're all wearing their new geta. As the work whistle blew, they began to work, but slowly. After an hour, they had only turned one bell into a campanello. One noodle in a whole hour? Where's my pasta? Demanded Okapi. We need to ship 3,000 boxes by midnight. Well, the workers began to move even slower. Move, you lazy sloths! Work faster! Shouted the Okapi. And slowly, Noodlephant raised her trunk. The signal! In a flash, the workers jammed their geta into the fantastic noodler. The machine shook, it sputtered, and it oozed a thick and stinking goo. It was completely clogged. Oh, they clogged the machine with their clogs. Sabotage! Sabotage most vile! Shouted the Okapi. Now, I asked you to look for ways that the animals with not a lot of money tried to get power back from a very, very rich animal, Okapi. How are they doing that here by clogging the machine? Think about that. The workers declared, "With all due respect, Mr. Okapi, we've had quite enough of your greed. You're selfish and mean, controlling and bossy. You've taken much more than you need. We are entitled to all we've created, including this noodle machine. We're taking it back. We will not be cheated. We're no longer part of your scheme." Because remember, friends, who made the fantastic noodler? Noodlephant and all her friends, right? And they had donated it to the town for everyone. So by putting their clogs in and breaking it, they're taking it back, right? And they're not going to be a part of Okapi's money-making scheme anymore. "I bought it fair and square," cried the Okapi. "Bzz, bzz. The mayor had no right to sell it," said the fly. "It belongs to all of us." Bzz. "But I own it," whined the Okapi. "Let's settle this," said Noodlephant, "with a vote." That sounds like a fair idea, right? That's another way that all of these animals can get some power back from this one very, very rich animal who owns everything. Well, soon all of Beaston was gathered to vote on the question: to whom does the fantastic noodler belong? All of us or the Okapi? When the votes were counted, the majority agreed. The machine was a public good and could not be privately owned. That means it belongs to everyone. Mhm. Well, the next day, the workers brought crates of peaches to City Hall and impeached the mayor and sent him packing. Because the mayor is partly to blame too, blamed too here, right? He didn't really have a right to sell the fantastic noodler to Okapi. Yeah. So it's time for a new mayor. And there he is, getting impeached. Soon, Beaston elected a new mayor, someone who would do a fly-tastic job. Look at the mayor. Zzz. It's our fly here, right? They've been a leader throughout this book. For the inauguration, Noodlephant cranked blankets through the noodler, making loads of floppy poo guy mane. Look at that big, wide ribbon noodle. Delicious. And the mice, of course, led the chorus. We're making decisions together for the many, not just for the few. Whether you're scaly or hairy or feathered, democracies for me's and you's. When nobody owns things, everyone does. We can share all the things that we use. Whether you're covered in spines or in fuzz. Democracies for me's and you's. Wonderful. But of course, what happened to Okapi? Well, as for the Okapita, he had trouble making money in Beaston. No one would shop at his stores or even talk to him. So he picked up and left town. And who knows? Maybe he's headed your way. Uh-oh. What would you do if Okapi came to your town? There is one final thing here, too, to see if you can notice about how the animals with not a lot of money got some power back from the Okapi. They stopped shopping at his stores. And stuff like that makes Okapi crazy because if no one shops at his store, he can't get any money. And that's what he cares about most. Yeah. And here he is, littering his way out of town. And look at all the beautiful things that have been transformed into noodles. And there is our clogged, fantastic noodler. All right, friends, I hope you enjoyed this story. We'll talk about it, of course, in class, but I wanted to make sure you could watch it more than once if you wanted to, because it's a deep cut. It's a really thoughtful book. I will see you soon.